So thanks again for everybody joining this week. This is our 5th webcast now in the last 5 weeks on our series of deep dive for cloud service management and the Bamboo release. If you haven't attended before, the intent of these webcasts is to really dive deep into one particular what we call marquee feature or new feature in the release and provide a lot more detail than we typically would do in a regular release. You know, we typically do like an overview webcast and then provide a lot more content on the wiki and the community, but this time we wanted to dive deeper into each one of these topics, do them on live webcasts and allow people to ask a lot of questions and make sure that you have the information you need to make a decision of when you want to start using this new feature. So this week we will be covering what's called the App Connector, which is a component of the automation module within Cloud Service Management. To introduce myself, I'm Rich Graves. I'm on the product management team at CA, focused on customer experience, and this is one of my roles is to keep our customer community active and involved and engaged and understanding what all the new stuff is out there. Just a couple logistics I'll repeat again. All lines are on mute. We do record this and we post everything to the community. So you'll see the presentation as well as the recording on the community, typically about 24 to 48 hours after the webcast itself. As far as the agenda for today, well, I'll jump to the agenda real quick. I'm going to give a brief update on the community. I want to make sure everyone's aware of what's out there, a couple of new things that are out there. Then I'll turn it over to Raj. Raj on the product management team will go through a brief presentation on automation in the App Connector, and then spend the majority of our time today on the demonstration. And then we'll end with summary and more time for questions. Again, feel free at any point in time to ask a question on WebEx chat. And we'll pause a couple different times, mostly when we're transitioning or going from the presentation to the demo. That's a great time to ask questions if you have questions on the phone as well. I did want to jump back. Just to introduce the team, I always think it's important to make sure that you know there's a group of people behind this product, and this is the product management team. The engineering team obviously is much larger, but this team is based both in the US and in India. So myself, Rich Graves, and you see Raj we're the two hosts of this call, and we have Sandeep and Prasanna on the line as well to help answer questions. Okay. So a brief community update. So just make sure everyone's aware the invites to all these webcasts are posted on the community. I have not posted the ones for the next few weeks. They'll go up later this week, and we'll start going through those other features. But we've had 5 of these after this one we'll have 5 completed webcasts. All the previous ones are posted on the community, the presentations as well, so if you need to go back as a resource, especially last week's presentation had a lot of slides as sort of backup points that we didn't want to cover during the actual webcast because they really went step by step. If you want to create a new workflow, here's step by step how you do it. We gave the demonstration, but all the steps are included in the presentation, so that's a great one to go back to. So all of those are there. They're all posted as YouTube videos, so it's really easy to get access. You don't have to necessarily download or anything. The other thing I wanted to make sure everyone's aware of, we did put these new production monitoring pages. We posted those. Those are now live, and you can see the availability of your specific environment. So we have one for North America, one for Europe, and one for Australia. So those are available there, so you can look at the community and find those links and bookmark those, so you can see the the status of our production page websites, or CSM instances rather. Lastly, there's been a lot of really great documents posted on advanced reporting lately, sort of positioned as a 101 and a 201 type series. So a lot of great information there to learn how to better utilize and get data out of the system. So I recommend those as well. So lots more ideas, documents, posts, questions, answers, a lot of great information on the community. So definitely check that out. Okay. Now I will hand it over to Raj to go through our App Connector and automation overview. So I'm passing the ball to you, Raj.
Thank you, Rich. Can you hear me fine?
Yep, sounds great.
Great. Okay. So this is a continuation of the previous session for automation. In the previous session, we talked a lot about the connectors and that we ship out of the box. The connectors like Amazon Web Services and VMware and things like CA product integrations, the Clarity PPM, and CA release automation. These are all the connectors which we ship out of the box, and using which you can automate your processes and workflows. However, no matter how many connectors we ship, there is still one or two use cases, or the applications that are out there in your systems are, I'm sure there are more than one or two. There are in your environment, there could be more applications which are not covered by out-of-the-box connectors. What we need is a generic way to handle, create a new connector, and then help you automate, integrate your third-party application into the processes and the workloads. So as you can see here, Salesforce, Work, and then Box, these are all the typical services that are used in enterprise environments. And you can build, not only these, you may have some, custom applications in your homegrown applications in your environment, which need to be part of service management. So you can, using this open automation, you can automate the third party. You can automate your processes which involve third-party applications or your own homegrown applications. And so this is based on REST APIs. It is simple HTTP, REST, JSON, and XML type payload services. And although the system is designed for REST APIs, it is optimized for REST APIs. In case you have any SOAP services, web services, you can also do it. But the UI is not optimized for SOAP. It is optimized for REST-based APIs. And so this particular app connector supports basic authentication as well as advanced authentication. Even if you have no authentication, you can build a connector to your application. And you can also build applications on-premise or on cloud. So we support both the modes. So last week we have seen, the previous session we have seen on-premise connectors which can be enabled by POP containers. So you can download a small component called point of presence, and then you can install that in your environment, and which will let you connect your applications and from your applications to the cloud service management. That acts as the broker between CSM and your data center. So so that can be used for any of your third-party applications or any of your servers. So benefits is a faster resolution of your processes. You save time, and the best part is building integrations. Custom integrations don't require writing a single line of code. You do not have to write a single line of code. You can simply build connector using our UI. It's a form-based UI, which I will show you shortly, which you can easily learn, and there is a lot of help text available in the UI itself that will help you, navigate through the form and then submit, provide the required details for a connector. And this will help you avoid using multiple tools. Since your applications are integrated into your the cloud service management processes, you don't need to use multiple tools and then you accept the ticket and work on something else, come back here and then update the ticket. There is so much of context which goes in when you use multiple tools and switch between tools. That is error prone, and it saves time as well. So you become more efficient. And you can also take advantage of growing adoption of APIs. These days, any application, any service is exposed. It exposes its functions as APIs. You can just get onto the bandwagon of these APIs and then use that for your integration. So it's all industry standard-based integration mechanism. So these are some of the integrations we built as part of Bamboo. Bamboo field testing. This was there we added some of these to our documentation in Bamboo, but we are planning to make these as out-of-the-box content for MR1. We are coming up with shortly with MR1. In that release, we're going to provide these connectors as out-of-the-box content as well. If you want to copy this and customize it, then you can do that always. So I'm going to go to demonstration. We'll share my desktop. So here is the Automation Center page where you can see the execution. So this is a recap. I have gone through it in detail in the previous session. This Automation Center overview page gives you a high-level overview of the workflow executions, their statuses. You can drill down into each of these executions to find out, what's going on with that, with a particular execution. So, for example, this particular execution has failed. You can drill down into this instance and then see which step has failed and what's the reason for failure. You get all the messages, and you can see the input and output parameters for that particular step. So going back to the other tabs, we have the connector library, which is the foundation of our workflows and Automation Center. This will let you connect you to other systems and then integrate them into your process flows and then into your service management processes. These you have seen this in the past, in the previous session. These are all. This page has out-of-the-box connectors as well as app connectors. So today we are going to focus on app connectors. So you can filter on these in this tab and then select app connectors. And here you can see all the app connectors that we have built in this particular instance tenant. So as you can see, we are still working on some of the things for MR1. As we have one app connector built for X matters, and then we have one for Dell, and then we have for something for time zone conversion. So these are all the connectors that we built internally and using the UI, the same way using which you will also build. You will also build your own app connector. So I'm going to walk you through a simple app building a simple app connector. So this is all you need to build an app connector. Just fill this page and you're done. Right. So I'm going to, and there's a lot of help text available here. So as you can see, whenever I click on something, the help text changes. It's the top portion shows the field description and the bottom portion has more detailed examples. So for example, here, app connector name, I'm going to build a simple Dell warranty check test. Okay. So this is the name of the connector, and if you want to have multiple connectors for the same app with different versions, you could do that by providing a different version number. And here is a description. So in this case, the connector I'm building is a cloud-based connector. So I have the base URL is the URL where the APIs are going to be invoked, top level URL. And you can see that we support both JSON and XML. These two are two different ways you can provide the payload or receive the payload. Hello. Hello.
Question on the line? Okay. Go ahead, Rajal.
Okay.
You hear me?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Let me mute the line. Sorry.
Okay. Go ahead, Raj.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the API format in this case is XML format, and here you can see the next section is about authentication. And authentication, we have two different forms of authentication. One is three actually. There is no authentication. And the second one is a basic authentication. This is a HTTP basic auth. You simply provide username and password for your application. And we have some examples. I'll walk you through that, which has basic authentication. And the next one is advanced authentication. So typically what happens is in some services, you first log in. And then after the login creates a session token. And then you use the session token to access all the other pages, that keeps track of your session management, keeps track of your session. So that is exactly what you're doing in this advanced authentication. So you have a login URL and then you have logout URL. So you provide the login URL has some input parameters. You provide those input parameters here, and then whatever headers it requires. And in case you have a payload for that, you also get that. And output is you typically get a session key or access token, some parameter which will identify your session. So that would be the output of your authentication. And then you use that output to invoke subsequent operations. So you take that same parameter and then use in operations. I'll show you an example, but first, just for the sake of understanding, getting the big picture, I'm going back to the Dell example. And in this case, there are no authentication. There is no authentication used. So you simply provide the base URL and specify the API format. And the next step is to specify the operation details. So this is actually invoking the API. Get asset details is the API, and I'm going to use the example here for my Dell API. And the next one is a method type. HTTP, is it a get method or post method or put method? In this case, it's a get method. Then the next step is to check to provide input parameters. So in this case, there are two input parameters. One is providing the asset details, which is a service tag. I have a value for that, and you can provide a value here, which will be used to validate the connector. Asset tag. And there is another parameter for API key. API key we have, so this is something you need to acquire from the service provider. Whichever service you are using, you need to get your key for accessing the APIs. So we already have one, so I'm just using it. API key is another parameter, right? So now that we have provided both the input parameters, I'm going to validate this and then capture the output. So done. This is a simple API invocation. So this is a simple API. We provided the input parameters. I'm going to test the output parameter by clicking on this link, view test output, and select parameter. So what this does is it invokes the API and it returns the response. So as we speak, it is invoking the Dell API, and then it came back with some output. So here you can see the output, right? So this is a complex XML. So it's humanly impossible to interpret this and then understand and get the data out of it. So what we did is we provided a simple tree navigation, which will help you navigate through the output. To whether it's a JSON output or an XML output, you can just navigate through the output and then identify the objects that you're interested in. So then out of the whole, the entire XML data, you are interested in just finding out the warranty details. You're not, don't need to understand, you don't need the rest of the data. So all you do is just, navigate to the data elements that you're interested in, and then just select them for your output. So you are just ignoring the rest of the output. So you are just interested in these three parameters: end date, and entitlement type, and then service level description. So you just need to provide provide usernames for these connectors, user displayable names. People want to understand, they cannot understand the complex XML path. So you just specify the more user visible names here. So remember, we are now building a connector. After we build the connector, the next step is to show it to use it in a process flow and a workflow, just like any other out-of-the-box connector. Okay. So I'm going to save this operation. Okay. Connector saved successfully. And so once I'm saving the connector here, and the next step is to publish this. You can use it in a workflow only after publishing this connector. So that means this connector is ready for consumption. Okay. So now I will go back to the workflow library that I showed you in the previous session, and then I'll show you how to use this particular connector in a given workflow. Okay. So you just go to the workflow library and then click on new workflow and then say, hey, my Dell test flow. Okay. Okay, I'm just selecting solution area, workflow solution, which will help you categorize all your workflows. So I'm going to keep all the Dell related APIs into workflows into one bucket. So that's what I just did here. Okay. And the next is, so here you need to select connector. So what is this workflow going to do? So the first step here is I'm just going to use the connector I created just now, and then invoke the warranty details and update the ticket with the warranty. So if you look at the use case here is, so you have an issue. The self-service user has an issue with a Dell laptop. He submits a ticket on the Dell laptop. Before even looking into the Dell laptop issue, the analyst wants to get the warranty details. He goes back to the Dell website, get the warranty details, and then work on the actual issue. So what we are doing right now is we are automating that process of getting the laptop asset warranty details. So we are automating that particular part here. So I'm going to locate the connector, Dell connector, just created this one. Okay. And this you probably have seen it in the previous session, but I will go back to it again. So you first select the operation. In this particular connector, we just created one operation, and then it has default credentials. It doesn't have any credentials, so we are using default credentials. Next thing I want to do is to massage the output. So get the data from the script, from this task, previous task, and then create a work log, and then update the work log with update the ticket with the work log. So the second step is to massage the data. So here I have already created a script which I will show you here. This is based on out-of-the-box templates. I just copied one of those scripts which does the data massaging. I'm just using it here. So what do we have here is one workflow variable. So there is this particular workflow has some inputs. So I'm reading those inputs, okay, and then creating the work log entry, and then I'm populating the work log entry here, okay. In this particular example, we have two. So if you see this, we have three workflow variables. Let me see this. Let's come back to this. The next step is to show the cloud service management, show the update the ticket with work log. Okay, so I come back here and then add that step. Is add work log to ticket and CSM credential. Okay. So this is all this workflow does. It connects to the Dell website, gets warranty details, and massages the data to create a work log text, which has a warranty information, and then update the ticket with the work log. Okay. So in the next step, what we are going to do is provide input/output parameters for each of these steps. Okay. So this has two steps. There are two input parameters. One is asset tag. If you remember, these are the input parameters we specified in the connector when we were building the connector. So I'm going to say provide this later. So asset tag is different for each laptop. So I'm going to use it as a parameter for provide it later. Let's add new asset tag. Default value is something. Okay. So just to recap from the previous session, there are 4 different types of input parameters. One is provided later. That means when user submits a ticket, this input parameter will be provided. It's not. It is provided by a self-service user as part of the ticket. Okay. And the second step is input parameter type is assign value now. So that means it's a constant value. So you are assigning that constant value so that, for example, in the case of Dell API, we have this API key which is constant across all the executions. So we can use that right now. Sorry, not here. We are going to specify that API key as assign value now. Add new. I have name of this constant and the value. Okay. The third parameter we have, input parameter, is assigned from workflow variable. So we have created a temporary workflow variable in the previous script. If you remember the previous script, we have a work log entry as a temporary variable. You can also assign input from that variable. So that is another type of input. Okay. So I already have a workflow which is in a working shape. So I will just walk you through that for the remaining workflows here. So global. So if you can see this data mapping for the third step, I already provided this. This one has it is about updating the work log of the ticket. So you just provide the ticket identifier, and you are saying whether it is visible by client, yes or no, and then time spent. I'm just using the value as 1 right now, and the text is work log entry. So this is the value that was provided by the script in the previous step. So I'm just going to in the script. So I'm just going to walk you through that script once again. Okay. So the first variable, asset tag, is a workflow variable which is entered by the user. We are reading it and then assigning it to this temporary script. And the warranty end date is a script variable that it's a temporary variable it's a workflow variable that we created as part of this this workflow creation. It's a warranty date is retrieved from the temporary variable. Warranty description is also retrieved from that workflow variable. And then work log entry is simply creating a text. We're using all the 3 variables here. Using these 3 variables, we just created a text, and we are setting that text value in this particular execution variable. So just to show you how to create the workflow variables, you have a work log entry here. You can just add any new workflow variables, and which we just used in the script. You can just get that from. You can create it as many variables as you want. These are all these variables are accessible. These are called global workflow variables. These are accessible from all the steps. So remember, we retrieved the value of this work log entry and the warranty date and the warranty description. Sorry, we retrieved the values of warranty date and warranty description. Let's see how we populate those values in the next step. If you go to the data mapping, so warranty date, description, and warranty end date are retrieved from previous step. So this is a 4th way you can, there are 4 different ways to set input parameters. We have seen only 3 here. And the 4th one is to read the value from previous step. So for any step from 2nd and 3rd onwards, or you will see this another type of input which says output from previous step. So what we are doing here is for the global variable we created, we just assigned the particular value which was returned by the previous step to this variable. So I'm going to keep the same values here for description and then end date. These 2 values are retrieved from this particular task, from this particular step, and I'm assigning them to a variable, 2 global variables here, which are populated in the script. Okay, so this is how workflow is created. Once the workflow is created, you just test the workflow. Since we don't have a ticket here, I'm just executing the workflow manually. I'm just creating, providing an open ticket which was already open. So we just run the test and then make sure it is working. So I go back to the home, the overview tab, and I can show you the result of that particular execution here. As you can see, there is a new execution right now. It just happened. So I can just drill into that. Let's see if all the values are populated. So these are all the global inputs we gave, the ticket ID and the asset tag. These 2 are the global input parameters. And here you can see this format work log text step, and then we have 3 steps here. And you can see the input-output parameters for each of these steps. So we had the whole XML, but we only captured very limited set of parameters for this particular Dell connector. So, let's see if the script is generating the right text here. As you can see, yes, Dell hardware, you can see the hardware details. It is populated by the script, and you can see the warranty details here, and then in date. So these are all properly populated, and then they are updated in the ticket. So the workflow, so what it validated now, what it validates is the workflow execution. So workflow is executed fine, and now we can use this for use this as a service catalog. So I'm just going to the next step. After you validate your workflow, you just need to publish it as a service catalog. So here you can specify the service catalog name and then publish it as a service request or change request. And I have created a simple process called Dell hardware issue process, and it has only 1 step, and the step name is check warranty details. So now you can find this Dell hardware issue, and then whenever you file that service catalog, it goes through this particular process, and then analyst can just click on this check warranty details step, which will populate the Dell Dell asset details. and I'm mapping the workflow inputs. As you remember, if you remember, one of the input parameters was service request identifier, which I'm mapping to the ticket identifier. So I don't need to provide that as an input now. So we'll take a look at the catalog here, which was created based on this workflow in the process. And then, yeah, so this is a catalog item which was created. So I'm going to submit a ticket here using this catalog item. Provide the input parameters. Sorry, the username. And tell hardware issue. Okay. Since this was initiated by the catalog, you can see that this has pre-populated values. This is a constant variable, and this is the asset tag is supposed to be provided by an end user, but I provided this now value as a default value. So it just populated that that input field with this parameter. Okay, I'm going to save this ticket. We can see how the process is applied and how the workflow automation can be moved. So we can go to the activity history of this ticket. And here you can see that process for applied is Dell hardware issue process. And now we should see a step called execute the check Dell warranty details. So in addition to these actions, now you have another additional action called check Dell warranty details. I'm going to click on that. So here it gives you two options, whether to execute now, or you can schedule this action at later point in time. So for example, this is just a reading the asset data, but if you are doing some, applying patch somewhere in the midnight, you can also schedule, so you are, applying a patch to a server, and that cannot be done during the regular daytime office hours. You can schedule that to midnight, and then, you can just come back next morning and then check the status. So I'm going to execute this right now, and then we can look at the status of this particular action, which is nothing but displaying the Dell asset details here in the work log. So that was the action performed by that particular drop down that I just issued. So as you can see that work log has been updated with the Dell warranty details. So this is a simple use case I used to demonstrate the end-to-end use case of the app connector, but you can make it a lot more, you can also use it for more complex use cases. So for example, so before I go further, I would like to stop here for a minute and then ask if there are any questions. Any questions?
Raj, there was a couple things that came in over the web that Sandeep and I answered. So I think we're in good shape there. Some about SOAP and some other things. So I think we're in good shape on those. I don't know if anyone else, feel free to ask a question on the phone. It is #6 or #6 to unmute your line. Or feel free to ask a question on WebEx and we'll address it as well.
Okay, while you wait for questions.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Raj. Sorry.
I thought there was a question. Somebody was speaking. Okay. Okay, so while we wait for that, I'm going to explain some of the complex concepts which are related to authentication. So authentication is something that's provided by the third-party application, and each application may have different way to authenticate its clients. So for example, the Dell asset details, it doesn't have any authentication. We didn't have any authentication there. So I'm going to show you little more involved authentication here. Let's take a look at this X matters. So this is, I'm going to show you that. Go to authentication. Okay, this particular authentication has basic, this particular connector has basic authentication, which is very simple, username and password. You just provide the username and password and validate here, and then go to your, come down for specifying different operations. So this is a simple one. Let me look for a little more involved example here. Yes, this one, App Synthetic Monitor. So this is a CA product, which is Application Performance Management product. So what it does is it monitors your application transactions remotely from various geographic locations, and then it updates the status. It monitors your applications from all these locations. So what we are doing here is simple, just an integration with that monitor. Just to, before you apply patches to your applications, you want to disable the monitoring so that it won't generate false alarms. So this particular connector helps you, helps you in disabling, the monitoring for your application, so that you can apply the patch. So you disable the monitoring, apply the patch. Once the patch goes through fine, then you start enable the monitoring again. So that's a use case here, and so here we have little more complex authentication. So this is advanced authentication. In the enterprise setup, we see a lot of applications using this kind of logic for their application authentication. So here, the URL for the login and logout is the same. So you specify the URL for the logins, and the next step is to specify username and password. So username and password is provided here, and there is one more input parameter required for authentication, and there is a header for authentication as well. Okay, so what it returns is the auth key. Okay, so resultant parameter is result.n key is the parameter returned by authentication. So this will be used by the application for throughout your session. So what we are doing here is we are capturing this as a parameter called auth_key, and this parameter will be used in all subsequent invocations. So here, update maintenance schedule is operation, and if you can see the input parameters, so you see this auth key being used, right? So as the parameter name is n key, and the value is auth key. So since this is the session parameter, it uses the same. It captures this, whatever is captured in the login will be used for this particular operation. After executing this operation, we automatically will invoke logout so that we don't leave out any session. So we first execute the login URL, provide all the input, capture the session key, and then use the session key for executing the operation, actual operation, to disable the monitoring. And then here is how it is used. And then after that, we log out so that the session is closed properly. And the output parameters is same as any other connector, regular app, any other simple connector. So that covers the authentication. As you can see, as long as you have access to the API specification, you should be able to create a simple app connectors. You don't need to do a lot of coding here. All you need to know is how a particular API is, specified by the vendor. So here, if you can see this Dell, sorry. View more examples. You can go to this documentation. Here we have a lot more example connectors, some of which we are going to make it as out-of-the-box content for MR1. So right now they are not part of the out-of-the-box content, but they are available as documentation. In case you want to play with it right now, you can just use this. So for example, if you want to build a connector to Rally 2.0, and you can just you look at this example and then go through step-by-step walkthrough and then build your own connector. If you want to build one for CA process automation, you could do that. So we are going to we are going to add more to the documentation as well as to out-of-the-box content. So right now we see very few app connectors in Bamboo. Actually, we do not have any app connectors in Bamboo, but in MR1 we will have some things like GR, app synthetic monitor, and providing sending an SMS message through Informatica. So we are coming up with a few of those connectors. They are still in the development stages, and the good thing is these can be done independent of the releases. We can add as and when they become available, or we can at least update the documentation and then make it available to you so that you can build these connectors by yourselves. Any questions?
No other questions right now coming in on WebEx. If anyone else, feel free to ask your question on WebEx. Just send it to everyone. We've had a couple questions that came to me that I addressed. But if there's anything else, feel free to ask it on WebEx or hop in on the phone. At this point, Raj, why don't we jump back to the PowerPoint deck and start closing out and see if any other questions come in.
Sure. So Rich, I'm handing it over to you. That concludes my app connector demo.
Okay. Thanks, Raj. Yeah, so just wrapping up, a couple important links that I always include just to make sure everyone's aware of the wiki, the product community, and the release notes. Additionally, all of our education videos, which are typically anywhere from about 2 to 10, well, probably 2 minutes to 12 minutes, are available on the Educate channel on YouTube. So if you're so if you go to this URL or just search for Educate or go to the CA page on YouTube, you'll be able to find that. We probably have about 20 or 30 now specific to Bamboo. There's probably 80 total out there on YouTube. And we try to link everything to the wiki and link everything to the community as well. So always starting at the community and the wiki is the best place to go. So I'll ask one more time, I think, before we close out, are there any other questions? I don't see anything coming in yet on WebEx, but any other questions? Okay. Well, I'll hang around for about 2 more minutes on the WebEx to see if anything else comes in. But I do thank everyone for coming on today and asking questions and participating. Again, as a reminder, I will post these to the community in probably the next 24 to 48 hours. So look for the recording in the deck and the PowerPoint deck also on there as well. So thanks again, and have a good rest of the day. Thanks, Raj.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.